friends, and welcome to finally another video from my series Quick Thoughts On, in which I always talk about different stories from the rich Star Trek universe. This video will be about the next episode from Star Trek The Next Generation, called Heart of Glory. It was aired for the very first time on the 21st of March 1988, and these are my honest opinions about it. First of all, I really need to apologize for the lack of uploads of this type of videos. A bunch of negative incidents happened during the last weeks to me, so I didn't have any time to do any properly scripted videos. But the good news is that since September I will have much more free time, which means more higher quality videos, including these Quick Thoughts On videos. But let's go to the episode itself. After the messy first half of the first season, the second half is, in my opinion, a huge improvement. This is one of the episodes which I would say are above average. It's a Klingon-heavy story, and therefore a Worf story. We start in medias res. The Enterprise has received news about a battle in the neutral zone, and are on the way to explore what is going on. They find a Tellarian freighter named the Beatrice, because based on the debris from the explosions, they assume Romulans could be involved. Tasha is asked to stay on board, and the away team will consist of Riker, Data and LaForge. Speaking of LaForge, we finally get a chance to see what exactly is Geordi seeing using his visor. This is the first, and if I remember, the only time that his visor will be used as a broadcast equipment, broadcasting what Geordi is actually seeing directly to the main view screen. Playing with cool tech is one of the things which I liked about Star Trek. And even though right now a device which would wirelessly transmit live video to your monitor is nothing really groundbreaking, we are talking about 1988. Television sets were bulky CRT boxes with low resolution, analog input and 4:3 aspect ratio. The web didn't exist yet, the internet was a tiny network consisting of a few universities, digital video was a decade away, and streaming was more than 2 decades away. So yes, this was a hugely revolutionary idea. I still remember the impression it led on me back in the early 90s when I've seen this for the very first time. That's why they spent some time exploring the streaming idea. Picard is fascinated by the fact that all of he sees is just a huge mess of different colors, and Geordi has to explain to him that it's similar to listening to just one specific voice in a hall where many people talk at the same time. We then see a man who is definitely not Data. He looks nothing like him. Even his haircut is completely different, but apparently it is supposed to be Data. I always thought that this is supposed to be an imposter, but it's just a bad directorial decision. Riker is the voice of reason and reminds Old Man Picard that the ship is falling apart and they don't have the time for playing with their new toys, and they continue the search for life forms, which Data is now sure are on board. After doing a bit more exploration of the ship, Data finds the survivors, just when the connection gets terminated. Data opens the door and they find somebody they didn't expect on a Tellarian freighter ship, 3 Klingon warriors. Or maybe 2.5, one of them is almost dead. Mr. Worf seems to be very anxious after hearing that they found Klingons, but there is no time to be wasted. The ship is falling apart, and Tasha must try to beam them back to ship. But of course the away team consists of the main heroes, so she manages to beam them in the last possible moment, and we get to meet the Klingons. They try to explain to Picard how did they get to the neutral zone on a Tellarian ship, claiming that they were just passengers, and when they were attacked by the Ferengi, the captain asked them to take command, since he had no battle experience. They managed to win the battle and destroy the Ferengi ship, but they accidentally got to the neutral zone, and everybody else on the ship, except for them, got killed. But when Picard, who thinks it's very suspicious, starts to ask follow-up questions, They pretend that they are hungry and tired, but Picard is not Kirk, Picard is a diplomat, so he allows them to leave the sickbay and orders everybody to behave to them like their standard guests, even though he knows that they are hiding something. This is just one of many strange decisions done by our main characters in this episode. While the injured Klingon is in the not very good hands of Dr. Crusher, Worf and the other two Klingons get to eat, because that's what Klingons do when their friends are slowly dying, I guess. We get a lot of backstory of Mr. Worf, finally. I remember when I've seen this episode for the very first time, how happy I was to get finally at least some information about why there is a Klingon on the bridge of the Enterprise. But we have no time for that. The wounded Klingon, Kunivas, is dying. Worf, together with the two other Klingons, run to sickbay. The leader, named Koris, opens his eyes and looks into them, and when Kunivas dies, Koris, Connell, and Worf stare at the ceiling and scream at it. When they leave, Koris explains to Crusher that she can do whatever she wants to the body, because it's just an empty shell now. Yes, Klingons don't care about what happens to their corpses. Shouldn't somebody tell this to the Discovery writers? Also, Klingons don't eat their enemies, and they don't look like zombie vampires. Now that the Klingons return with Worf to their quarters, Connell tells Worf that in reality they didn't fight the Ferengi. Worf kinda ignores it and instead starts to explain more details about his childhood. The Romulans attacked the planet Khitomer, where Worf's family was living. He himself survived the attack and was found and rescued by a Federation officer, who we later will know is called Sergei Rozhenko. Rozhenko brought him home and raised him as his child. They even mentioned that Worf has a foster brother, a real biological son of the Rozhenkos, who later left Starfleet. The funny thing is that they remember this small detail, and we will meet this brother in Season 7. That's what I call consistency with the canon, unlike different Star Trek series. But back to the two Klingons, they straight up admit that they didn't destroy a Ferengi ship, but a Klingon ship. They actually stole the freighter and wanted to find a place where they could have the right to live as warriors, just as Klingons should, but the High Council sent a Klingon cruiser after them and they destroyed it in a fight. In other words, they betrayed the government and broke several laws, including the destruction of a battlecruiser. Worf is disgusted by this revelation and does nothing. Why? I honestly don't understand his actions, or actually the lack of any actions. Why doesn't he immediately call Picard and tell him what happened? Did they try to suggest that Worf is considering to betray the Enterprise crew? Or is it simply bad writing? It's not really addressed later. Instead of having a normal reaction, Worf gives them a tour of the Enterprise. Again, why? It simply doesn't feel like Worf. Back on the bridge, Data explains that what happened on sickbay might be the Klingon death ritual. The howling is a warning to the afterlife that a Klingon warrior is arriving soon, when suddenly they intercept stock footage from Star Trek the Motion Picture. Sorry, I meant to say a Klingon Katinga-class warship. They want to know what the Enterprise is doing there, and when the commander, called Canera, I have no clue how to pronounce these names correctly, when he finds out that they have Koris and Connell, he demands that they will be arrested and given to the Klingons. Tasha and her team go to arrest them. They find them in a corridor talking about the saucer separation capabilities of the ship, and Worf asks what is going on, after he was told that the two Klingons are criminals. The Klingons ask Worf to protect them, because he is one of them, but he finally behaves like the Worf we all know and love, and joins Tasha's team. A little girl runs from the turbolift directly to the hands of the Klingons. Koris grabs her, and after a few seconds he gives her to Worf. Tasha thought that it will be a hostage situation, but Worf explains to her that Klingons never take hostages. No, I'm not going to say that Discovery writers should watch this episode because the original series Klingons did take hostages, so technically in this point this episode is the one which breaks the canon. The two Klingons are brought to the brig, and Worf on the Enterprise tries to talk K'Nera and persuade him not to bring them back home, where they will be executed for their crimes, but allows them to die an honorable death on some remote planet. But no, K'Nera is a professional soldier, he must follow his orders. Meanwhile, Koris and Cornwall assemble a disruptor from the components of their uniforms. Okay, did the writer watch MacGyver a bit too much? But let's pretend that it's possible. They attack the guards, and Koris manages to escape. Cornwall doesn't survive the prison break. Tasha tries to catch him, but he manages to get to the engineering section, climbs up to the second level around the core, and points his phaser at the dilithium crystal chamber. If he shoots, the Enterprise will blow up. He demands to talk to Worf, and Picard goes with him. Worf tells them that as soon as Koris finds out that he has no other choice, he will shoot, even if it means that he will die himself, so they let him go to talk to him. Worf climbs up, and they have a nice motivational speech, after which Worf tells him to climb down. When Koris refuses, Worf shoots him. K'Nera accepts the death of the two Klingons and offers Worf a position on his ship. Worf thanks him, but then tells to his colleagues that he was just being polite. This is a very strange little episode. If you think about that, nothing really happens. They find 3 Klingons, bring them on the Enterprise, another Klingon tells them to arrest them. They do arrest them, but the only survivor escapes and Worf kills him. In other words, I describe the whole plot in one sentence. Also, it doesn't have clearly defined heroes and villains. On the first look it looks like Worf is the hero and the other Klingons are the villains, but are they really? Worf seems to be thinking for a moment about joining his brothers. He held vital information away from Picard and then kills the Klingon in cold blood. So, is he the hero? And what about Koris and his 2 friends? Were they really the villains? All they wanted was to leave their homeworld and live their own lives like their ancestors did. Yes, they did some bad things, but from their point of view, whatever they have done was in self-defense. I really like episodes like this, when they force you to think, at least about something, where not everything is black or white, but in different shades of grey. The beginning is a bit slow, but to be honest, it's my favorite part of this episode. Overall, there is a huge place for improvement, but I still like this episode, like it a lot. On my regular scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is absolute garbage, 5 is just average, and 10 is a masterpiece, I would give this episode 7 out of 10. Definitely one of the better ones in my humble opinion, but not perfect. But as always, these were just my opinions about this episode. Let me know what do you think about this episode. Did you love it, hate it, or did you think it was just okay? If you enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up button, and if you have some free time, feel free to watch any of the other videos you can find on my channel. You should see some links on screen right now. Thank you very much for watching, and see you very soon. Bye.